With October right around the corner, I'm already starting to get into Halloween mode. I've always been a bigger fan of cheesy 80s horror movies as opposed to the more serious ones. Something about humor and horror is the perfect combination of scary but fun. Growing up, I was scared of, but also drawn to movies like Critters, Ghoulies, and Leprechaun. I enjoyed the fact that the same character that could scare the hell out of me could also do something or tell a joke to make me laugh. Actually, Freddy Krueger was always pretty good at doing that too. Horror movies aren't the only thing I love from the 80s. If you watched this channel before, you already know that I'm a big fan of 80s metal. Lucky for me, and anyone else that's a fan of cheesy horror movies and heavy metal, the 80s provided a few films that joined the two. And that's what I want to talk about in today's video. Here's my favorite heavy metal inspired 80s movie. Trick or Treat. This 1986 film was made by the same people that brought us movies like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and Evil Dead 2. Directed by Charles Martin Smith, this movie centers around a high school metalhead named Eddie, or Ragman as he likes to call himself. In fact, Ragman is the title of this film in some foreign markets. Eddie's an outcast who loves heavy metal music and is a huge fan of a local metal singer named Sammy Kerr, played by Tony Fields. Sammy Kerr is an infamous badass, who truthfully seems like he puts on a killer show. I mean, look at him here. He literally makes out with a snake before biting its head off, and then he bathes in his blood. And this isn't Ozfest that he's playing. He's a hometown hero, so it's just some local show. Imagine walking to your local venue and seeing this happen on stage. I paid $10 and buy some merch to see this live. A week before Halloween, Eddie finds out that Sammy has died in a mysterious fire. This causes him to go on a batshit crazy rampage and tear down a bunch of his posters. As a collector of vintage metal memorabilia, this scene just hurts to watch. I actually cringed the first time I watched this movie when I saw him tear up the Diary of a Madman and Judas Priest posters. I like this detail in the movie because this is pretty much realistic of how most high school metalheads' rooms look. In spite of his rage, Eddie goes down to his favorite radio station, who I'm sure plays Kiss's Rock and Roll All Night and Detroit Rock City on repeat all day, because the disc jockey is none other than Gene Simmons. Here, Gene consults Eddie and tells him that Sammy Kerr was a self-destructive person and the only one to blame for his own downfall. Then, Gene gives him the last known record made by Sammy and tells him to play it on Halloween at midnight. This is when the movie really starts picking up. Eddie goes from getting bullied every day and even pushed into a pool at a pool party to starting to fight back and get some courage. He even starts developing a love interest. But not everything is looking up. Eddie's starting to hear weird things from the record Gene gave him, and he's even starting to hear strange messages when the record is played backwards. This is a detail that I like that they added in the movie. It's a cool way to play on a real life urban legend. It's at this point where the movie starts having classic horror scenes. Nothing gory, but suspenseful, supernatural stuff starts to happen. There also isn't too many crazy makeup special effects in the movie, but this scene where this girl listens to a cursed cassette tape and has her ears melted off is pretty cool. I mean, look how gross they made it look. I can't lie, some of my very early demo tapes and songs could also melt someone's ears off too. In addition to Gene Simmons, this movie also has an appearance from Ozzy Osbourne, who plays, of all things, a reverend. He doesn't have too many scenes in the movie, but he does deliver this golden gem of a line when reading song lyrics of a band that he's speaking out against.
Gonna drive my long steel missile down on your love channel. Deep, deep, you'll beg for more. Raising hell and serpent score. Feel me, feel me. Now what does that mean to you?
Ozzy playing a reverend just cracks me up. I don't want to give too much more away because the concert scene at the end is excellent. In fact, I think this whole movie is excellent. It has the perfect amount of cheese to not go overboard, the acting is good, and the storyline is great. There's a few more heavy metal inspired 80s movies like Black Roses and Shock 'em Dead that are entertaining, but nowhere near as good as Trick or Treat. Black Roses is one of those movies that's so bad it's good. It's great to drink some beers and watch with a few friends so you can laugh at the terrible acting and storyline. The main character is a man who has to be in his 30s, playing a high school student with the IQ of a middle school student. And then the main villain, who's supposed to be the cool, good-looking lead singer of a metal band, is this guy. I probably should have told you to make sure your girlfriend or wife was in another room before showing this guy, because he's already stole 3 of my girlfriends. I guess there's nothing I can do for you now. Sorry. Despite the bad acting and terrible storyline, I have to say, the monster makeup and music in this movie is terrific. The songs are very catchy, and one of the songs was done by Lizzie Borden. Actually, the soundtrack was even put out by Metal Blade Records, which put out some of the greatest metal albums of all time. So the movie does have that going for it. Although it's far from the best, it's also not the worst, and probably worth watching at least one time for the laughs. Shock 'Em Dead is probably the cheesiest of the three movies, but it seems like they made it that way on purpose. It has tons of funny, corny parts, and is another great movie to watch with some friends for some laughs. The music is also probably the worst of the three movies. The one musically good thing about the movie is that there are a bunch of cutscenes of Michelangelo Badio shredding. This scene in particular made me laugh because you can see the main actor play the guitar with no armband, and when they cut to Badio, he has an armband on. Despite that mishap, there are some cool scenes like this one. I mean, look how cool that double BC Rich is. I feel like the majority of the budget of this movie was to get Badio and Tracy Lords to play in it. It seems like they just kind of winged it from there. However, just like Black Roses, it's definitely worth watching once. All three of these movies have their moments and are entertaining in their own ways. If you're going to pick just one to watch, definitely make it Trick or Treat. If you do decide to watch any of these or have already, please leave a comment and let me know what you think. Until then, keep on shredding.